Hi there, here are 15 things to know before you cruise on Royal Caribbean's Allure of the Seas. And if you have any questions or know any additional tips, please drop a comment in the comment section. Let's get into it.
Up first, tip number 1. Complete your online check as soon as it is available. This will allow you to choose the earliest embark time. The earliest time you can choose is 10:30. The earlier you are able to get on, the more time you'll have to enjoy the ship's amenities. Also, the line gets longer the later in the day you try to board the ship, and you want to make sure you are at the port at least at the time you've chosen. They'll let you on later, but not before. Tip number 2. Download the Royal Caribbean app. You will be able to check in on the app, but also, even if you don't get the internet pack, you can use the free Wi-Fi to message others on the ship. You can also stay on top of wait times at eateries, menus, reserve shows, and monitor your SeaPass account. Tip number 3. Reserve your excursions, but watch for price drops. Even if you reserve an excursion at one price, but the price drops later, you can quickly cancel your reservation and rebook at the lower price. Tip number 4. You will have an onboard SeaPass account. You are issued a card called a SeaPass card that is used to open your room, but also needed as your ID when you are boarding and leaving the ship in port. SeaPass cards will be located at your room after you board, once the room is cleaned and ready for you. Tip number 5. Speaking of ready for you, when you board the ship, more than likely your room won't be ready for a couple of hours. Make sure to keep with you things you may need like medications, swimsuits, sunscreen, etc. Tip number 6. Cash is king. Before boarding the ship, you will need to drop most of your bags off with the baggage handlers. You can keep a small bag with you if needed. Make sure you bring enough cash to tip the bag handlers when you onboard. Your bag will get there without tipping, but it sure doesn't hurt to tip them a couple of ones per bag. You can also use cash at the end of your cruise to directly tip a service provider you want to directly recognize. Tip number 7. There's some things you can't bring on the ship. Most small electronics are not allowed, so leave your heating blanket, kettles, clothes steamers, and clothes iron home. You can bring prepackaged snacks like chips or cookies, but leave prepared food home. You can bring a couple bottles of water, but no more than a few, and leave your spirits at home unless you want them to be confiscated before the cruise and returned to you at the end of the cruise. You can also bring an empty water bottle that you can refill. Tip number 8. When you board the ship, you may want to eat. Most people head for the buffet, so it can be kind of full. Royal Caribbean has a couple of other options. On the Allure, you can go to Central Park Cafe and another complimentary cafe where you can get sandwiches, paninis, salads, and the like without the crowd. Another place to check is the Solarium Bistro. Normally, the Solarium is adults only, but anyone can eat there on boarding day. It's a reduced version of the buffet with a fraction of the crowd. Tip number 9. Let's talk food. Included in your cruise fare is a few complimentary food choices: the main dining room, the buffet, Solarium Bistro, Sorrento's Pizza, and Park Cafe. Other food choices are available for an additional cost. But Johnny Rockets, which normally has an additional fee, serves complimentary breakfast. Tip number 10. Hungry after 9 p.m. Hope you like pizza. Pizza is the only free item available after 9 and can be found on the promenade at Sorrento's Pizza. You can also find hot chocolate, tea, and sometimes finger sandwiches and pastries. Tip number 11. Want to see a spectacular show at sea? Reserve your aqua show as soon as possible. Tip number 12. Going to Coco Cay. Sure, it can seem like everything costs, but there is a complimentary area. Go to the South Beach and there are plenty of chairs and umbrellas. Tip number 13. Since we're talking costs, let's talk about some extra fees to be mindful of. Your cruise fare covers stateroom, taxes, fees, complimentary meals, and beverages. The cruise line will charge a daily gratuity to your room SeaPass account for each person in the room. Currently, Royal Caribbean charges $18 per guest per day. Tip number 14. When you complete boarding the ship, you'll have the opportunity to put a credit card, debit card, or cash down to cover your SeaPass account. If possible, put down a credit card. You'll get a daily authorization on the credit card, but it is typically better than your debit card being charged or tying up your cash. Tip number 15. When you're on the ship, the promenade is the most central part of the ship. If you get lost, locate the promenade to be able to navigate to wherever you need to go. Also, when watching the parade in the promenade, There is a little quaint area just above the promenade on Deck 6, where you can see the parade but not be trampled by a crowd. There are a lot of tips to remember, but hopefully these 15 will give you a good start. Like, share and subscribe for more travel information. Take care.